Hi everyone, I'm back with the latest diary entry of 22nd February 1906, and I have a friend with me today. This is Paddington, as I'm sure you recognize, and I found him quite randomly yesterday. So it brought back memories from my own child. I was 9 when I got this for Christmas, and honestly, I remember thinking it was really ugly. I think my mother liked it more than I did, and luckily she kept it. And now that my dog has seen it, he really wants it, but I'm going to put it down. And so it made me think, I wonder if Dmitri had a teddy bear in 1906, but I doubt it. I wasn't doing teddy bears, certainly when I was his age. He had his toy soldiers. And then as an adult, he loved toy trains. So model railroading. All right, so this one actually, it's long, but it doesn't require much commentary. And I'll dive right into it. So this is Wednesday, 22nd February 1906. We had lunch at home because the lesson ended early, i.e., it had begun early. I had tea at that palace. I went alone because Maria had a German lesson. After an early dinner, we went to Pavlovsk. Maria says she had fun, but I didn't, though it wasn't as boring as I thought it would be. Meyendorff also attended the lesson. I don't know why, but she reminded me terribly of Tata, with her smile and the way she laughed and turned at the same time. By the way, when I mentioned Tata just now, I couldn't help but remember a completely different matter, i.e., everything she told me on that ill-fated evening. Tata, why did you tell me that? I just had to hear that one word Tata said to Maria. But let me describe everything in the order that it happened. 2 days previously, in the evening at the infirmary in Ilinskaya, I noticed Tata talking with Maria. I wouldn't have paid any attention to it if it hadn't gone on for a long time. But finally, when they'd been talking constantly and kept on doing it the next day too, it really interested me. I asked what they'd been talking about. Tata answered that there was no way she could tell me, and sooner or later I would find out anyway. I couldn't stop thinking about it until that, I couldn't stop thinking about it until that day in the evening when, after dinner, I heard Maria say to Tata, "It's like a belly button." When I heard that, I asked what it meant. Tata was very embarrassed, blushed, and said there was no way she was going to tell, but I kept insisting until, in the lazarette that evening, she told me everything. It all surprised me so much that I was completely upset, and when I went to bed that night, I even wanted to cry. But strange as it may seem, from that moment I fell in love with Tata, though in a way that I'm now ashamed to recall. I'll finish everything else another time, 10:15. So he gave this diary entry over entirely to this reminiscence of Tata. So was it sentimental or was it not so much? I don't know. Apparently, if he had been playing with teddy bears before all this, he wasn't anymore. He'd had a bit of an awakening. All right, so some people and places. Well, let's start with Meyendorff, the girl who reminded him of Tata by the charming way that she laughed and turned her head at the same time, or laughed and turned. So this is quite unusual that he would refer to a girl by her surname. Quite unusual. I don't know if I can think of another instance of it throughout the entire scope of the diaries from beginning to end. And there are plenty of Meyendorfs mentioned in the diaries, but, well, I shouldn't say plenty, it's basically 4, but they're all male. And Dmitri gives very little information about them. So I don't know if any of them were her relatives. I just have no more information to offer about her. Tata, unfortunately, likewise. God, I hate saying that name. It's so silly. Probably a nickname for Tatiana. My guess would be that this is Tata Kleinmichel, because there's a Tata Kleinmichel who turns up in 1908. And how many people had that name? That nickname? Not many, I would think. So that's what my guess would be. My godmother is actually a Kleinmichel by birth. And I asked her once years ago, long before I had these diary entries, because of the 1908 reference, I asked her if she knew of any Tata Kleinmichel, and she didn't. So that was a dead end as far as information is concerned. But let's see. We will just have to move on, I guess. So Ilinskaya was the country estate where Dmitri was born. It was in the countryside in the vicinity of Moscow, and it was his. When Sergei, it had belonged to Uncle Sergei Alexandrovich, but when Sergei was killed in the terrorist attack, it became Dmitri's. Sergei didn't leave it to his wife; he left it to Dmitri. And after the revolution, when Dmitri married and had his child, they took the surname Ilinsky, Princess and Prince Ilinsky. And so I wonder if that was Dmitri's choice. They weren't called Romanov, they were called Ilinsky, and perhaps that was, for sentimental reasons, the name that he preferred. So he spent a lot of time there as a child. Even before he went to live with his aunt and uncle in Moscow, he and his sister would still spend a lot of time there, just like their parents had spent a lot of time there before his mother died. And it's funny because if any of you are following my Schatzalp research, you probably already know that when Dmitri arrived at Schatzalp and wrote a letter to his sister, he said that Schatzalp reminded him of Ilinskaya, although Ilinskaya was not in the mountains. So there was an infirmary or a lazaret at Ilinskaya, and that was something that Grand Duchess Elizabeth, Aunt Ella, always was involved with. So that was an activity she was very keen on. And what I don't know, I think the word lazaret refers specifically to medical facilities for soldiers, sort of temporary medical facilities for soldiers. So I'm guessing that this was probably related to the Russo-Japanese War, and that she had a lazaret built at Ilinskaya, but I can't say for sure. But the 3 kids were there, and of course, as you see, the girls are talking and maybe giggling, and Dmitri understands that whatever they're talking about is something that he's interested in too. So he dogs poor Tata until she finally tells him what it is. And apparently it's something about body parts. So you can use your own imagination about the whole belly button thing. So was he being a little bit sarcastic, or was he being straightforward when he says that it upset him and that when he went to bed that night he wanted to cry? And, he's sort of laying it on a little bit, saying, Tata, why did you tell me that? Yeah, so I think he's being a little funny about it, if not sarcastic. But it could well be that he'd been naive about such things, and then he found out about them, and now in these diary entries he seems to be, as you've seen from some of the past entries, that he seems to be fairly in the know. But anyway, that is pretty much that. He fell in love with her, but he's ashamed to recall the way he fell in love with her. Yeah, okay. Doesn't take too much imagination, does it? All right, so I will stop there. And the next one is very, very interesting to me in particular, about Aunt Minnie and Uncle George. And yeah, that may sound not so interesting, but believe me, it is. All right. See you next time. Bye.